Good day buddies. What you're watching now, is my pet ant hunting their own food on their self-feeding ant farm. And what we mean by that, is we're not directly feeding this ants. Cause this hunting ground on their setup is home for countless critters providing them food. Did you see that buddies? A great catch display by this clever hunters. Like bam, quick bite, and sting to incapacitate the prey. They knew that they need to be able to get them in the first strike, or the prey will vanish quickly by burying into the substrate. Anyway, the following hunting clips of them is filmed for months, cause we don't always caught it on cam. There's always some workers here hunting for food 24/7, checking every movements on the substrate. Just under it we have a massive number of critters available to be catch. We have the larvas of buffalo beetles, which is the most common catch for them. Especially if they're on pre-pupae state, as they cannot move that much. The next one is the buffalo beetle's pupae, which is an uncommon catch for them. As most of them will create a chamber in the deepest part of the substrate, which is a pain for the ants to dig cause of the loose substrate. Next is these little isopods, which is a rare catch for the colony. As they're mostly underground, and they can act like a rock by just not moving when they encounter the hunters. Most of isopods that they get is the dead ones, which died of old age. Which is still rare, as all the critters here are consuming each other's dead bodies. We also have this legendary tier critters here, which the ants never bother to hunt down. The springtails as they're too small. And the buffalo beetles which is heavily armored for them to bite, and for their stingers to penetrate. I've already tried not feeding the colony with protein for 2 months long buddies, and they survived. That only results for more active hunting as expected. Some of you may ask, what if the ants hunt them down to extinction, or wipe them all out on the setup? Well, this self-feeding stuff has been running for almost a year now buddies, and to be honest, that never happened. As the critters we have here reproduce so quickly, that the ants had no chance on wiping them out. I'm even transferring, or taking a portion of them with the substrate out. Every 4 months, as their population becomes too much. Don't worry buddies, for those interested on making your own self-feeding out worlds, I'll tell you everything about how we made. And how easy to maintain this kind of setup, but first, let me say welcome back buddies. And for those new to the channel, you're also welcome to DColonyyt. Let me tell you how did we found out that buffalo beetles, and this isopods works so good together. Well, it just accidentally happens buddies, cause I have this spare buffalo beetles, and isopods culture. For some mites reasons I've mixed them as I'm trying to experiment years ago. As these two creatures are so great on dealing with mites. Fortunately I misplaced them, and totally forgot about their experiment. I found them 6 months later, and they still both doing fine. Though the substrate is almost dry, so I hydrate them. And purposely leave them for another 6 months. And it just proves that they're just thriving together. What I just provided is dried leaves and moist the substrate. I suspect them of eating each other's poop for survival, as their cleanup crew for a reason. This is also no substrate change for years, cause when I decided to mix them together, both their substrates had already been used a year long. We've already used this guys as cleanup crew together, on my Madagascar hissing cockroaches setup. And just 9 months ago, we made the prototype. And introduced that we'll try to make a self-feeding out world using them, and it turns out really great. The only problem we had on the prototype buddies, is the low nest entrance. Which easily gave the critters, especially the buffalo beetles, to have access to the ant nest. Disturbing them too much and slowly affected their brood's production. So we did a simple upgrade, several months ago. To prevent the critters to access the nest, we just made the entrance higher multiple times, utilizing the critters' inability to climb smooth surfaces. Then we added substrate, with the ratio of 1 part dirt, 2 parts fine sand, and 2 parts cocoa peat. This mixture is so good for the critters' survival, as the ants can't go underground, and can't dig tunnels, in this loose substrate. Just look at these pupating larvae underground buddies. He's safe here as long as no active larvae move around his chamber, that might trigger the ants to dig on this part. Several days have passed, and she successfully reached pupae stage. And eventually turn into a beetle afterwards. Just need to harden the exoskeleton, and he's ready to go out and help with the reproduction on the surface. There, substrate we'll provide is indeed crucial, to let them reproduce here on the self-feeding and farm freely. Next is we added this stone platform, to give the ants another way to the entrance. This will help in maintaining the glass clean, as the glass may develop stains if the ants continuously climb on them over time. We just need to make sure to keep a distance of more than a centimeter, as the critter's size is only 8 millimeters and below. It will prevent them of moving to the other side of the setup. You can also skip this and just use flat stones, or grout like in our prototype version. Make sure to monitor, and keep the glass clean to contain the critters on just one side. Next, we added the critters we collected from the old outworld. It's only a portion of their population, as we still have some worker ants left to deal with on the old setup back this time. But we eventually managed to move most of them in the next few days. We also end up adding Tweety woods on both of the setup, to at least make them uniform. Plus the critters will also nibble on them once in a while. We also need to add, and maintain dried leaves on the setup. This is a long-term food source for the critters. And once a week, we need to water at least 20% of the substrate. And we also feed the critters once a week, to give them nutrition for reproduction. Like fruit slices, vegetables, dog food, or tropical fish food flakes. Sometimes the ants like to feed on them as well. And that's pretty it on maintaining our self-feeding and farm buddies. Right now I'm only feeding this colony protein once a week, just to give them a different taste, or kind of food. Like roaches, and crickets. And I'm offering carbohydrates in regular basis, every other day as they can only hunt for their protein needs. And of course, an ample supply of drinking water as well. They're now my only pet ant colony who only requires a minimal care. I know this type of setup will not work on every ant species, but I'm still so happy to finally make it work. Even just on this specific species for now, though I will definitely give it a try on another type of ants soon. What I'm planning, and might do next with this colony is let them experience famine for 6 months, providing them only sweets and water. They'll 100% work, and hunt for their protein supply. What do you think of the idea, buddies? Should we give it a try? I just hope you have learned something from this video, guys. Be a genie for the first time, by granting my wish and tapping the like and share button, that would help a lot. This is DColonyyt, saying goodbye for now, but hoping to see you on my next videos.